Greetings, upstanders. Dr. O here. And so it seems by all accounts that the killer of Charlie Kirk has been captured. And I'm not a big fan of saying the names of killers because I feel like they want more attention, and I don't feel like we should be, putting their name out there like that. And I find myself saying, okay, we have the killer. This doesn't change anything as relates to our society. The fact of the matter is, MAGA, followed by their leader Trump, is still going to be putting out hateful rhetoric. Yesterday, when I put up my post talking about this, when I said that Trump is not the leader for this time as relates to bringing people together because he's fundamentally a violent man, just a few hours later, he was talking to the press and he said, we need to kick the crap out of radical left lunatics. That's what he said. That's what he put out there. He's not the person who could bring us together during this time. So that hasn't changed. The fact of the matter is that, MAGA and Republicans and members of Congress or the House and so on and so forth, still running on misinformation and disinformation and trying to lead people towards everything being, the fault and blood of hands being on the Democrats, a la Nancy Mace. The fact of the matter is, this man is a non-affiliated voter, not registered, hasn't voted in the last few elections, and comes from a Republican stronghold. But whether he was registered as a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because there are, because he had the bullets that had like anti-fascist things on them. There are Republicans that hate dictators and fascists too. When you look at organizations like the Lincoln Project and you look at media companies like the Bulwark, these are groups formed by former Republicans who don't want to see America become a dictatorship or have a fascist leader. And they talk openly about that. They don't promote any violence towards anybody. So hating fascists and hating dictators knows no political party. Let's add something else. People wanted to make this about this is another trans killer that's out there. From what we can tell so far, this man is a heterosexual white male that comes from what some are reporting to be a Christian family. He's not LGBTQ, not transgender, none of that. But that's still not going to stop people from trying to throw that in as part of the argument as well. You see, if people were serious about this, if leaders were serious about this, some of the things that they would be paying attention to is not trying to pin it on a political party, but they would probably look at the fact that the majority of these killers over the last few years and these shooters who shoot at political figures, as well as, of course, school shootings and the like, but I'm talking also about political figures, the majority of them are under 30. That's the conversation that needs to be happening about how we target that. The majority of them are white males. That needs to be a conversation as well. There's been a lot of conversations about what we need to do to make men, but normally when people say men, they're usually talking about white men, feel more accepted, less ostracized, and so on and so forth. But there aren't a lot of conversations about the accountability that needs to happen when men and step out of line and do things like this. People are going to be quicker to go to mental health rather than talk about this other epidemic that's happening, which leads us to the conversation about mental health. Because once a shooter is identified who happens to be a white male, people automatically jump to mental health. Now, of course, in this case, if the person is considered to be a left-wing extremist, they're going to blame that as well. But most people in the cases of white men jump to mental health. When they're Muslim, they jump to terrorism. When there's black, they jump to Black Lives Matter thug from a parentless household or a fatherless household. We got to talk about that. And until we have those conversations, we're going to continue to miss the point. We're going to continue to miss the mark. I didn't care who killed Charlie Kirk. I saw it as an act of terrorism. I don't care if it was somebody who I liked or who I followed or who I listened to or who I knew did it. It doesn't matter. It's terrorism. And it's also a conversation about access to guns. This student was apparently a star student in high school, got some type of presidential scholarship. By all accounts was on the path to be doing great things with his life, but got radicalized. And radicalization happens on all sides of the political spectrum. So if we want to get serious, but see, I keep saying if we want to get serious about this, but most leaders aren't about getting serious about this. Some are calling for a race war. You got so-called journalists like Jesse Waters calling for this being avenged. How's a journalist or a TV personality call for of a quote-unquote news network? That's why I don't call them Fox News, because it's not a news network. I just call them Fox. How do you get away with calling for people's murders to be avenged? How do you do that? That's what also needs to be looked at in our society. One political party, as it relates to the leaders and it relates to the networks, are putting out the hate and calling for more violence. You got HBCUs on lockdown. People are calling for a race war, but we had a white man killing another white man in a majority white state at a majority white school. But people want a race war. I'm listening to Reese Colbert and Clay Kane, and somebody calls up the show talking about Michelle Obama and Maxine Waters put out violent rhetoric. And what do you expect to happen? Michelle Obama, who hasn't been anywhere near the White House for years, who tried to have a garden that people condemn her as some type of communist and socialist, but got no problem with Maha and RFK Jr. And she's the one who actually gets ridiculed by Democrats, even though she was not a political leader, for saying when they go low, we go high. But they're going at her. And Maxine Waters, who said a few years ago, when you see these people, confront them, meaning step to them and talk to them and challenge them about their issues, which is what we all know she meant. But they're calling for a race war. So Charlie Kirk's killer being found changes nothing. And if people want to have a real conversation and real dialogue, there are serious issues that we need to be talking about in this country, but those issues don't really seem to benefit anybody's party right now. But there are Democrats who want gun control and they want that type of... How does he get access to a rifle? Can we have that conversation? And so until America gets serious about this, unfortunately, these things are going to continue happening. I heard one of the neighbors a grandmother who lives 3 doors down from this killer, who said, it can't be him. That type of stuff doesn't live here, but it does. And until America gets out of this, and I heard another guy say, I'm just mad that this happened in my state. So you find if Charlie Kirk or somebody else got assassinated in Pennsylvania or Massachusetts, what needed to happen in a blue state? Is that where we're going? The fact is, this can happen anywhere. It can be all of our neighbors. It could be anybody, anywhere, anytime. And once we get a grasp on that, maybe America can start making some progress. But until we stop all of this, both sidesing everything and just talking about, everybody should have a right to, and not call this stuff out. This is who we are. This is America. Stop saying this is not America. This is not the country you believe. This is America. And we have to confront it dead on. We have to confront it head on. Because it's only going to get worse. With our access to guns, with our social media culture, with the way people get polarized, run down the list. Who's going to work to build conversations that need to be had? Who's going to work to have conversations about that across the aisle? Who's going to do that work? Who's going to do the work to bring peace to this country in this polarized society? My hope is that it's you. I'm here for it. I'm doing the work to the best of my ability, and we need y'all to step up and do more as well, just like I plan to step up and doing more. Peace.